Hello, my name is Beau Smith, and welcome to SFG Top Performance for feed and grain. To start off today, I'd like to talk to Mark White and give us an update on the grain markets.
Morning, Beau. Hey, we continue right along with the grains and the good markets that we've seen the last really 4 months almost now. And it's got some excitement out in the country. Guys that are carrying old crop corn or beans are being rewarded quite well. And it appears that this should carry on through early summer, we think. The export business has been excellent on both of them. A lot of good corn sales the last 2, 3 weeks, primarily to China, but our good friends in Mexico and Japan have also been buying corn. This morning there was another 4 million bushel sold to unknown. And we all know a lot of times that means China in the background. Not a huge sale, but hey, 4 million is another 4 million off the books. And so that's all good. We worked the last week to get March to close above 550 on the board. There was, I think, 4 or 5 days it traded above 550, but it wouldn't close above it. Finally, early this week we did. That was another benchmark level of resistance. Now we set our sights, at the top side for right now at $6. Will we get there? It's kind of hard to say, but if the export business continues, South America, the bean harvest is dragging. The weather, after being dry most of the growing season, now they're getting way too much rain. And that in turn is going to slow down the planting of the safrinha corn crop there in Brazil, the second crop, which is corn. And that might put that into the heat zone for pollination. So that's our next major, them and Argentina are our next major competitors on the corn side. So any hiccup they have down there will be a bonus to us. New crop, we're trading on the board in the 450 range in the December contract. That puts the local bids in that $4 range. Not a lot of excitement yet as far as sales from producers. However, I would maybe challenge people to consider selling some increments at least. There's been too many times we've seen a growing market all of a sudden, just in the nick of time, it disappears from you. So you don't want to sell it all on the way down. Let's sell some on the way up and get it locked in. Um, the ethanol business is slowly increasing. That's being a good thing, but we're still a long ways from being at a normal rate of what we're using. The next big stocks report is on the 9th of February. Everybody will be watching. The two main numbers will be the carryout on both the corn and beans. The January report showed corn at 155 million. 550 tells us that the trade is expecting that number to shrink at least 200 million bushel, maybe a little more, get down that 125, 1.3 range. If that doesn't happen, we're probably going to trade back to $5 range or maybe a little below on that March contract. Um, but the 550 board price tells us they're expecting this to happen, that they will lower that number down. So it's that's kind of what's going to set the tone for the next uh, maybe month until we get to planning intentions report there sometime in April. On the bean trade, it's been volatile. I mean, that's just an easy way to say it, especially the past 2 weeks. A couple weeks ago on a Friday, we traded limit down almost within a couple cents, and it kind of looked like maybe the party was over. Well, we go into the next week, and within 3 days, we got most of that back, and now we're kind of trading static. Again, they're waiting for this report on the 9th uh, to carry out there. And the January report was around 150 or 130, I'm sorry. And, some guys are thinking it could be well below 100 million. That'd be pretty dramatic. We've been there before, and that means the pipeline gets pretty sparse come July and August. And that's when those exports or imports into the United States would help get us by possibly. Again, the harvest weather in South America is having an effect. That's brought China back to buy some near-term beans that they normally wouldn't buy from us this time of year, but they're needing the crop now and can't afford to wait till Brazil gets it all in the bank. New crop prices on beans at local level is in the $11 range. That gives beans a 2.75 ratio over corn. And right now, that would put the favor to the bean side. I've said all along, we're going to see an acre war sometime in the next month, probably. And that's why corn needs to get some acres back or maintain the acres. Beans needs to take 6 to 9 million acres away from somebody, whether it's corn, cotton, or wheat. So that could make for some interesting times, and we need to kind of be prepared to make some sales when the opportunity presents itself. Last thing, the weather, we're finally into a cold spell, the first really major cold spell for this season. Looking at some well below normal temperatures in the next 2 weeks. So that always has a little bit of effect in usage, particularly on the domestic side. So, Beau, that's my report for the week. Thank you.
Yep. And Kent, we'll go on to you. Like Mark had mentioned, these colder temperatures are coming. Is there anything that we need to be doing different with our cattle?
Yeah, for most of these spring calvers, we're now into that last trimester, or in some cases they're starting to calve already. And with that, it comes a definitely increased demand of nutrition. That last trimester, about 75% of the fetus growth occurs, and better than 30% of the energy is that the cow produces goes towards fetal development. And then you add cold weather on top of that, it definitely increases demand for nutrients. On a general rule of thumb, you can figure in the late pregnancy that a cow is going to need about 60% total digestible nutrients and about 9% crude protein. And then when they calve, that jumps up to about 65% total digestible nutrients and about 11 or 12% protein. When you figure that corn has about 7.5% protein, and good grass hay has about 8 or 9% protein, you can see that we've got a gap there that we need to fill with some additional protein supplement. Then, like I said, the next couple of weeks, we're going to have some very cold temperatures. And generally, you figure the low critical temperature for a cow is around 15 or 20 degrees. When it gets below that, the cow will go into sort of and especially if it doesn't have the nutrients it needs, it goes into survival mode and diverts some of that energy from the fetal development to the fetus back to keep its, to its own body to keep that core temperature up. So some things we need to be probably looking at, obviously, is depends on how you're set up to feed, but a good corn protein supplement. Or another thing that's very popular and would be very easy to do would be feed protein tubs. These protein tubs not only provide the protein, but most of them have all the vitamins and trace minerals that the cow needs. And most of them around 4% fat. And fat obviously is a concentrated form of energy. So it would be a quick, easy way to add extra nutrients to these cows. Most of the time you figure about 30 cows per tub, but in this colder temperature, you might want to consider like 25 cows per tub to ensure that there's adequate space there and that they're all able to get access to these tubs. And then when you talk about heifers, not only do they have the same nutrient needs as far as fetal development, but in most cases they're also growing. So they definitely need extra groceries. They're in that 11 to 12% protein level needs. So they definitely need extra supplementation. And their low critical temperature is higher than a cow because obviously, like I said, they're growing. So that when it gets down to about 20, 25 degrees, that heifer, if it doesn't have an adequate growth, she's just starting to suffer. So those are things we need to be addressing here. And of course, the number one thing we need to address is the number one nutrient that a cow needs is good, clean water. And she needs to have access to that for at least every 6 hours. And in the wintertime, a cow will drink about a gallon per every 100 pounds of body weight. So, a 1,200-pound cow would need at least 12 gallons of water. And I know during these real cold periods of times, keeping the water flowing is an issue, but that has to be addressed probably before anything else gets addressed. So that's basically what I got, Beau.
Yeah, it's supposed to get down to almost a -11 this coming week, and having good flowing water is going to be extremely important. So we're going to move on to Scott. Have any updates on our northern feed section? What's been going on up there?
Hey, Beau. Thought I'd talk a little bit about the new Kent show feed. They've introduced a new show feed lineup this year. They've made their program easy enough for the first-time show families, but yet with the top dresses, you'll still be able to dial up the nutrition for each individual animal if you need to. All of their new feeds contain Show Gloom and NutriVantage. Show Gloom is for skin and hair quality and also muscle development and tone. NutriVantage is like a buffer for their digestive system, helps them utilize their feed better, and they'll get better gains with it. And also, if you got your own show ration that you like to feed, SFG can custom blend that and deliver it in bulk and bag for you. It's getting that time of the year again where we'll start feeding show calves and hogs and lambs and goats, and just remember SFG for all your show feed needs.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got for you, Beau.
Yep. I met with Scott about a day or two ago, and we were discussing this Kent show feed, and I ordered some pamphlets from what the old show feed is called and what the new show feed is called. So if you still like the old Kent show feed, just come on in here about next week, and we'll be able to discuss what it was and what it is kind of now. And a little bit on operations side of feed. We're still growing, which is really good and actually kind of surprising. Last week we delivered 90 ton in one day, and that's kind of a big feat when you don't really plan on doing that. If you have a week or so of planning, then that's kind of easily done. But when you're kind of look at a list of what's going on and say, oh man, we got 90 ton to deliver the next day, that's kind of good. So we all came together as a team and got it accomplished. I think we got it all done before 1 o'clock, which is at least all on the truck. So that's pretty good. And then we also hand bagged 19 ton last week with our brand new bags. They look pretty similar to what we always had. We're just trying to include everybody in on what's going on. And then with the snowy weather that we had yesterday, I would like to point out that if you can't get to your feeder, we can't get to your feeder. We got some pretty big equipment out here that we like to try to show off, but we don't want the tow trucks to see it too many times. And then I just wanted to mention, like Kent said, with that -11 temperature coming up, these cows, spring calvers with the last trimester coming up, they're going to need a lot more energy to keep them warm and keep the fetus growing like it needs to. With that last 75% of the fetus growth growing right now, that's pretty important to keep feeding your cattle. And they're going to be probably at the bottom of the hill with all this wind and cold weather coming. So make sure you keep on them, trying to find them. Cows like to hide by themselves when they're about ready to calve. So anyway, that's going to end it for this week's Feed and Grain podcast. Thanks for joining us.